This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
So, Brent, today we have on one of my oldest friends, and I've been working with him since I started in the business, literally from day one starting in the business. This is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor began his career in DC real estate in 1984. Should I have said that? Sorry.
Ageism.
Yeah, right.
It's the only 5-year-old working.
That's right. So, 1984, Dale Denton Real Estate in Washington, D.C. That's for any old school real estate agents listening. They may know that name. That was in Georgetown. And this was after graduating from Colby in Maine. Jonathan came to D.C. He was living with a friend and found work at Houston's Restaurant, another old school D.C. name there. And then he had a meeting with a real estate developer, Wallace Tutt, 2 years later. And then Wallace and Jonathan opened their own firm in 1988 called Tutt Real Estate. Then in 1991, a new stage of the firm began, Tutt, Taylor, and Rankin Real Estate. And then eventually in 2006, the firm became the DC metropolitan area's affiliate for the Sotheby's International Realty brand. So the company is now TTR Sotheby's International Realty. And fast forward, the firm has grown exponentially over the last 16 years. I mean, it's like grown exponentially since really like the late 90s, I think. And then with over $5 billion in sales volume in 2021, pretty amazing milestone. Long career, a lot has gone on.
I'm tired.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys know how little I like to do things like this, so I applaud your persistence.
It's one of those funny things because in our business now, we're always trying to get people up front and on panels and discussing things, and people who are super successful like yourself, and you kind of shy away from those things sometimes.
I'm just a shy little kid from Montpelier, Vermont.
It took some persistency though, because I remember we kept asking, and then you would scale back and like no, and I'm like, Max, should we keep pushing, or is that like I kind
of let it go. I was like, eh.
Yeah, but it's like we couldn't be good salesmen if we're not actually pushing, whether it's a seller, a buyer, or the owner of the company. Like, get up here and give us your insights on what's going on.
Like role playing, I had to finally give in and agree to your sales pitch.
Right,
that's right.
So
let's go back to not like the beginning, but you're from New England originally. How did you end up moving to DC? Like, when did you come here?
Well, I graduated from Colby College in 1983.
Okay.
And I had an opportunity with a bank in Rhode Island to work. I had an economics degree out of Colby. And lo and behold, I was turned down by the very bank that my father worked for at the time.
Interesting.
And thank God. That would have been just a terrible existence, the sort of strapped to a desk type of thing that I could not have existed with.
Can't imagine Jonathan Taylor, the banker in Vermont.
Oh God.
What was it like? What position were you applying? Was it like loan officer, just, bank teller, or
entry level sort of,
climb the corporate ladder?
Yeah. So that didn't work out, and my best friend from high school was down working at Houston's Restaurant in Georgetown. So I came down here. I bought an air mattress at Sunny Surplus in Georgetown and slept at the foot of his bed for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
in the Envoy on 16th Street.
Yeah. So some of our newer listeners, like what is Houston's?
Houston's was the place to be in Georgetown.
Was it a bar or steakhouse or?
You're not even familiar with it?
I'm not familiar with Houston's. I thought there was a Houston's up in Bethesda.
Houston's is a chain. Yep.
Okay.
And so it's just interesting. I was reminded by some people just last week about the Redskins. They would come there after their Sunday home games.
Oh, wow.
And they were not good tippers.
And act like asses.
Yeah.
They were good back then, right?
They were good. That was 83.
Like Super Bowl
they
years.
were, yeah. That's when Georgetown was still having the 100,000 person Halloween parties and the parades for, Georgetown University won the NCAA.
Yeah.
The Redskins won, and it was,
you always get
high
sports
time
in here.
Yeah. So, and that's Houston's was where Dale Denton used to come for lunch. And so we met, struck up a rapport. I also had a friend who was was doing some development, starting small scale in Rhode Island. So I just decided to take a Principles of Real Estate course, just to do something, to educate myself on something else. And just Dale Denton was my entry into business. I came here with nothing really. Borrowed $3,000 from my father, and I don't think I ever paid him that back, but didn't ask for more. But Dale was great. Dale took me to what was the name of it? Clothing store in Georgetown. Bought me 3 suits, and just gave me a draw for the first 6 months too, and just got going. We had a great group of young guys and girls at that time, and real estate was fun. It was different. I mean, you were seeing a computer in the morning checking for updates, and it was just this thermal paper rolling out, no pictures on anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If there were pictures of anything, it was like you had to literally take the pictures on a film camera, had them go take them to the photo mat.
Yeah. I mean, and you're sitting you're placing ads on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and sitting in the office for your 2-hour shift, hoping for a call, and you've got index cards in front of you, and people are literally still smoking at their desk.
Wow.
That was old school.
That's very old school.
It's interesting now, our main Georgetown office out the front door, I literally see that Dale Denton office on M Street.
Yeah.
Where it started.
So what was the makeup of that office? Like how many agents? Were you on a team by yourself right under Dale?
Just, treading water as fast as I could on my own. I knew I didn't have any skill in the business other than working with people and being able to talk to people. On more
it's important in our business.
Well, yeah. Working at the restaurant obviously helped develop that sort of customer service attitude and can do working with a team, making sure everything that happens and just dealing with the ups and downs.
Getting done what needs to be done. Yeah. But it was just very different. You're showing a listing and you're calling, you're going, you're getting the keys for it, you're bringing them back after you show it. All the technology that came at that time was, oh my God, there was a fax machine. That was crazy. So for the first 6 months, everyone's just sending pictures of their butt as they sit on a fax machine.
I'm sure there's some younger agents who probably don't even know what a fax machine is.
Yeah. Remember, you get that dial tone. It connects to the fax.
Yeah.
I think when I started, we were phasing out the fax, but I remember that. You couldn't read it coming through. It'd be all the way lines across the seller's name, the address, and they're like, how's the title attorney going to read this?
But just in terms of the technology alone, when you think about starting in the business in that era, and you said you're checking updates on the most basic of types of computers. You have to actually go to get keys, then drop keys back off. So there was no electronic lockbox system. So all of these things were done extremely manually and in person. Contracts also
getting contracts signed, and if you're in a competitive environment, I mean, literally, you're going. May I come over? I know it's 11 o'clock, but I just need you to initial this. Yeah. And it was crazy.
Well, when I first got started working with you, it's about 20 years ago now, we were still sort of doing things by hand a little bit with the contracts at that time. And I remember you going on appointments in the evening to meet up with people to get things hand signed. I definitely did that. Then we started doing more stuff by fax. Again, early 2000s, there was no real email way to do this. The speed of business now is it's unbelievably fast now compared to how it was. So that
So
you've seen all that is incredible.
Would you be sitting? I'm just thinking now, like to your point, like you don't have cell phones, so you're sitting in the office waiting for the listing agent to call to say you won or didn't win, or can you change your offer in a competitive situation?
Oh, well, you're advancing things a little bit. I mean, you know, we started, you know, I got in working with Dale, and then in '86 met Wallace Tutt as a FSBO, for sale by owner, on 21st Street in DuPont. And we just got along, found a buyer for that house. And that was something that Wallace had purchased for like $240,000 and spent another $240, renovating and adding on to. His father from Alabama thought he was crazy to spend that much money on a house. Had a garage and a pool, and we sold it for like $642.
Big profit.
Yep.
Yeah.
He did well. And, you know, as an aside, I just sold that house again in 2019 for, I think, $2.2.
Wow.
Yeah.
But well, I remember with Wallace, the day we got our first car phones, you know, the antennas on the back window and the big box phones.
Yeah.
I remember that. Tell us a little bit about Wallace Tutt. Was an interesting character. Very like outgoing guy, knew celebrities, worked with celebrities. Tell us a little bit about like just Wallace Tutt. I think that's of interest to people, like how you like getting to know him, like the kind of places that he got you into, the other people that you met through him. Tell us a little about Wallace.
Well, he was just such a doer. He was in every way. You know, he would work hard and play hard, and he was a connector, and just he got things done. He was, you know, whatever was going on, he was on the job at, you know, 6:30 or 7. Brent, you can appreciate that. Just a little late, actually.
A little late for me.
Yeah, but he got things done. The big thing was a house called the Swan House in the corner of New Hampshire and Swan, where people have been trying to buy this Romanesque mansion basically for years, and Wallace was able to coordinate the 24 heirs and buy the place.
That's like nearly impossible.
He got people to do what he wanted, thinking it was what they wanted. And so that was an incredible property where he created basically a 6,000 square foot main house with, I think, 5 other just beautiful units. Had a turn-court driveway and pool in the back, and that house was sort of an integral part of our existence. When we started our company, in 1988, on August 15th, we signed our corporate papers, and we were Tutt Real Estate. And we were smiling at each other, taking calls, you know, with our feet dangling in the pool, you know, in the back in the afternoon. And, you know, it's just a very different pace of business.
Yeah.
We would hear of something. I remember one day we were just at the house and we were competing, and you grab this 1-page, you know, legal paper law reporter form. That's what we would buy these townhouses in DuPont on. So it started out doing, you know, in that first wave of condo conversions. And we had one big client named Dick Storch who was buying things, and Wallace was doing all his projects. And, you know, we started sort of filling the company little by little with friends and family as agents. And at that time, the real estate market here was very different. You know, we were literally shorts and polo shirts and, you know, just dressed,
right,
you know, to do what we're doing. Way before the days of the button-down suits and ties and
corporate America.
Yeah. So wait, when did the suit and because I was basically wearing a suit and tie from day one when I started working for you, but this was after.
I didn't tell you couldn't.
Yeah,
I didn't have to.
Yeah, right. I just kept showing up with it. And he's like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But the so so that was the early era getting started with Wallace and at Tut Real Estate. And then what sort of led you into like the next era? Like, I guess it was the late 90s. Michael Rankin joined the company.
It was the early 90s. It wasn't
early
that
90s,
long.
okay.
So Wallace and I started in 88, and it did grow. And we took, we started working out of a space, a one bedroom in that house at 1808 Swan Street. And then we moved to 18th Street. We had more room. We brought on a few other agents.
Just backing up a little bit, like from for sale by owner to Swan House, like what was the duration? What was the conversation like getting started with Wallace? Was like, hey, let's do this, and I'm going to be the broker, and you're the developer, or did Wallace have his?
No, Wallace didn't have his license, so yeah, that's I'd forgotten about that. That's when I was, running out to Tyson's, for my whatever it was, 145 hours for broker license. That.
So you were the broker.
I was the broker. I had to do that before we could form the company. We had decided to do that, and that was obviously the mission. There was a point where I think I had a $30,000 a year salary from Wallace to, kind of coordinate job sites and this and that, and that was probably $30,000 wasted by Wallace. It wasn't my forte, but we worked together, and we were developing product that we could sell, and we were developing a clientele, and it just kept growing, and it's just in the relationships of the people that we were working with.
You start bringing new agents into the office and growing the entire brokerage.
Yep.
The standard.
And then at one point we were looking to bring on several new partners. And just didn't work out, and thank God several people turned us down. But Michael Rankin was also with Dale Denton Real Estate, and Michael was, this rising young star, and lots of energy, and sort of just slightly different networks, but we were all kind of doing the same thing. And he and Wallace were also personal friends, so we officially joined that and became Tut Taylor and Rankin. And even that, I remember that name just, having a little different feel to it than Coldwell Banker Real Estate, or something like that. And so it's we marketed that, and
the signage was different. It was a little more elegant than a lot of the stuff, the standard real estate branding around town. That was definitely something I remember.
I remember working with Fathom Creative.
Yes, sure.
Do these brochures and this and that, and all that stuff was unusual at the time. So we were trying to be cutting edge, whatever that means, in the early 90s. Michael joined us in 91.
91.
Long time ago.
Yeah. It's, oh my God, it's over 30 years.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I was still in high school.
Well, that's when I virtually met Jonathan, when I was in high school. So, yeah. So now Tut Taylor and Rankin. So the brand is changed. This is when you had some a more attractive signage, more attractive marketing materials. You're obviously still doing great business. Michael is also growing his incredible sphere at this time. So things are expanding, probably, I'm guessing, more rapidly with the Tut Taylor and Rankin branding.
Yeah, but it was still a very different time. I remember certain conversations where, geez, Michael, I don't know. Do we want to get a new computer that's a 256 or a 486? I mean, do we get the laser printer or these decisions? And I remember Michael, God, I don't know. We did over 2 million this year, but maybe should I get an assistant?
The brokerage?
On
his same, right.
It was
right. Very different.
Very different. We would do things like every Friday afternoon, I would be calling into the Post to place our ads.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Flush left top, Georgetown, flush right open, 2 to 4, and I'm literally reading these things to the Post, and I hated Friday afternoons.
I remember all
You were there then?
we were still doing similar ads and like having to. I don't think it was like on a phone call, but we definitely had to send things in, and it was very like. I remember the indenting and bold and all this, you know, and you had to pay extra for bold.
Yeah, 12-point caps on that one, and
you only had so many characters or words too, because we would always get like, you'd have this great big long printout in the block ad, and it's like next thing you know, it's like 1-bedroom co-op Southwest price. And it's like, well, that's not what we wrote.
Yeah, it was fun. There's certain things I remember. My favorite ad was one. There's a little side street off of, I guess it's Q or P. Right by the Exxon station in Georgetown, which used to be a Gulf station, and so the ad led overlooking the Gulf of Georgetown.
Scott plays
Gulf
of Georgetown. That's great.
You know, so that's what you could play with, and that's what people were looking at. There was no internet. They're just looking at.
They're going to get their newspaper, and they're going to open houses and finding listings, and
they show up, paper, everything's circled.
Yep.
And you know, again, like I said, you're on phone duty, and you know, on a Tuesday, you've placed 2 ads and hoping for a call.
You guys were in the Swan House, and then where did you guys go after the Swan House? And how many agents do you have in the mid '90s?
Swan House, I think Wallace bought a townhouse on 18th Street across from L'Oreal Plaza. So we were in there on the 2nd floor. Homeowners Guardian Title Company, Mark Lobar, as the attorney, moved in on the lower level there. Later, that was Dave Jenks. Dave Jenks took over. God bless Dave and Mark and Wallace. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Last man standing.
Yeah.
So then, okay, Tytula and Rankin, you're now into the 2000s.
We're growing.
You're growing. When I started working with you, I think there were maybe between 40 and 50 total agents with the brokerage and just 2 offices, one in DuPont and one in Georgetown. Right.
We had one uptown.
Right. So Chevy Chase-ish.
Yeah.
So, but then you had sort of moved down to DuPont from there.
Michael and I bought the townhouse at 1410 Q Street.
Right. Yes. And that was a big deal because Logan Circle was expanding. Yep. There was a lot of new development, and you saw the opportunity, obviously, to pick up a piece of real estate, commercial real estate, build your own office out the way you wanted to. Yep. And then so that early era there, it was only a couple of years, I think, we were at that office before the recession started with the market crash related to the mortgage-backed securities. And so that sort of, as most businesses had to contract quickly, but not, you guys had already started, you had already started the Sotheby's branding. Is this correct? Pre-recession?
Yeah. So we joined Sotheby's officially in January of 2006.
So this is I think an important thing for our listeners is like this is a kind of a sea change business moment for your overall business and the further course of your life. Okay, so you have I believe it was an NRT conglomerate, real estate conglomerate with many different brands, including Century 21, Coldwell Banker. And then they had the affiliation with Sotheby's, the auction house, to actually use this branding and create this luxury brand. And they were out looking for small boutique brokerages around the country to create a network of affiliates. And so they approached you.
Well, they changed their model in 2004, where it had been sort of opt-in, opt-out. You could tag something with Sotheby's for 1%,
right,
and or not. So it wasn't a cohesive business. So in 2004, they changed that and created the true franchise, where every bit of business was, 6% was charged by them. Paid it back, but they also created a real network with an integrated marketing team in New York, and they processed basically trickle up sort of ideas from around the country, from around the affiliates.
Mhm.
So, you know, at the time, Washington Fine Properties had been the affiliate here
Right.
under the old standards.
Right.
And they couldn't reach an agreement on continuing that. And so then they started to look for other companies to take their place. And we went up, Michael, Wallace, and I, one of the few times I saw Wallace in a suit. We were up in New York at a meeting and with, President Mike Good at the time of Sotheby's International Realty, and it went well.
Yeah.
And, and we've worked it as well as anyone in their system.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, we were fortunate with DC being just such an international hub. And, it was kind of a backwards real estate market here for a long time. And so with that support and network, and just differentiating ourselves in product that we were able to supply and for our clients and, both sellers and buyers, and dealing with the people, in the network, it was wonderful. And it's just it's also as you say, sort of balancing life. You're still working, but you're doing something that's a little more fun, and you're meeting people that are more interesting and diverse.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead, Brent.
Was there any resistance? I'm just thinking, because we've had other, like Lindsay Reisman on the show, who we adore. He sold his company to Compass, and now he's doing his own thing. Was there any resistance between the three of you? Like, because you're partnering up with a larger franchise, and it works out for the benefit, but it's like you are giving up some of your identity and like Taylor Rink and
autonomy.
Exactly. Was there any pushback or any resistance?
In the way it was presented and the way that it has worked, no, we are still an independent company with standard guidelines that I would be stupid if we resisted.
Right.
It's what bonds the network, literally around the world.
And the concept of like brand identity it's not new. It wasn't new then, but for real estate, especially for the way real estate was generally done for a long time in all over our country, you had some major brands, right? Some household name kind of brands like Remax, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, but you still had a lot of boutique brokerages, mom and pop stores all over the country. And this sort of was a way to cohesively bind some of these groups together with a really strong brand affiliation. And, I have to admit, at first with the brand affiliation, when they were just getting things going, there were some hiccups in terms of how to deal with certain standards and fonts and how things will be presented. But over time, they've done an incredible job with the evolution of that and how they bring in ideas, like you were saying, the trickle up ideas. They bring in some of the best ideas from all these top brokerages around the company and then feed that back out to the entire group. So they've worked well at it also. And I think they've been an excellent partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And the concept is wonderful that you have these ideas and we're not really in competing markets.
Right.
Every now and then there may be a little overlap with
the Baltimore market.
Yes.
For us
or around the country, but most of them were independent markets. So the concept is simple. If someone, in Michigan is better because we help them, we're better because they're better.
Right.
And another aspect to it that I don't know that you guys had any doubts about this going into it, but you've obviously made a lot of the network affiliations by, like you were saying, is there are real people at the other end of this.
Yeah.
So meeting these other brokers around the country, going to different events, and you're a very social guy. So going to places like the Bahamas, obviously Palm Beach, Boston, all incredible places in their own right. But now meeting some of the absolute top realtors in those places, and you're all tied to the same branding, is pretty incredible.
Yeah, very simple case in point. We were down at a conference with One Sotheby's in Miami last week in Palm Beach. Brent, you were there.
It was amazing.
We had a great dinner at Renato's. Yes. But I've got a high-profile client looking for a second home likely in Italy or Portugal or France. And so I'm literally having dinner with, Levotico, who owns Italy, Sotheby's International Realty. I'm going to Italy. I'm going to Venice next month for the first time. And he was sure that, I made a reservation at his favorite little restaurant in Venice, and here, use my brother's name. And, and I'll,
Oh, wow.
I'll be,
Yep.
having a meeting with the woman, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, who runs, Sotheby's in Venice. And, life is just better. It's more interesting. And these are real people.
They're real people, and they're connected in all these places.
And they're
and they should
helpful.
be,
We're all on the same team, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, the connections are real. I can attest to that because we're sitting there with, Kevin Brown, who's been on our show,
Yep.
And he's so connected up in New York. And it's like, if you're in a listing presentation or a buyer consultation,
Mhm.
you can say, oh, I've got great feet on the street in Manhattan, Aspen, Jackson, wherever
Right.
it is.
The market is so much more global now anyway for so many reasons. And to have those real connections. If someone says, do you know someone there? And you actually do really know someone there, is a huge difference.
Well, it's particularly in the price point, in the pool we're allowed to swim in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, of course.
I have a $20 million listing here in Mass Ave Heights that I'm not allowed to publicly market. But, yesterday I spent an hour on the phone with Jeff Miller from One Sotheby's in Miami, who has, literally his business, he said, I have 20 billionaires in my Rolodex right now. Rolodex in air quotes right now these days. But,
Right.
Yeah.
We know what that means.
Yes. If anyone knows what that means, right?
And so we had a very good, literally hour conversation about this market. How can he push this? What are the key points to talk with his clients about this property? And this sincere camaraderie of this network is incredible.
Well, I just want to go back to the key point of what you said. We have a $20 million listing that we can't publicly market. Just mentioning that to anyone who's listening, to call.
There's that one guy that's listening, right?
Yeah, Joe Barlia.
Exactly.
Okay. So we talked about, all right, but let's just, in reality. So humble beginnings, you had working in a restaurant in DC, meeting up with the
everyone should work in a restaurant.
I know you've always said that working in a restaurant is a really great way to understand customer service at the most essential level.
Yeah.
Having to get things done quickly, timely, smile.
Mm-hmm.
You don't
multitasking.
You don't always get paid, especially in obviously because tipping, it's changing a little bit, but you don't always get paid what you're expecting to get paid, no matter how hard you work. It's kind of
sometimes you get more.
Yeah. So I would say humble beginnings, right? Small company, some chance encounters that lead to good relationships. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight. Lots of things have happened between then and now. But so now you're one of the managing partners of one, if not maybe the most important brokerage in the Washington, D.C. area. How many agents do you have working for your company now?
I would say we're in the 550 range.
Yeah, that's huge.
And just doing over a billion, or I'm sorry, I think 5.2 billion.
Only just over 5.
It might have been 6 years ago or so. We were celebrating, hitting $1 billion for the first time.
Right.
And it's just been exploding.
Yeah. And you're still finding, I see on our company Instagram feed, obviously 500 agents is a lot of people to keep up with. I don't know everyone personally in the company as well as I used to, but the recruiting and in terms of new talent and finding people coming from different brokerages, you're finding that the Sotheby's brand is still extremely valuable in bringing in this talent.
Yes, and I would say we deliver what we promise.
Right.
Which isn't always the case.
Fair enough.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I understand. Coded language.
But it is always a challenge, case in point, as I look into Brent's eyes. But, I think in both of our, Brent, because you're so good at what you do, you're constantly presented opportunities to do it in a different, with a different affiliation. And I think we've worked through that mutually as a real win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I appreciate just the opportunity because, I mean, most people know my background. I mean, small town West Virginia, moved here from, we were in New York for 1 year, and we moved here. And then I'm knocking on doors, cold calling agents. I like my agent who was Century 21 down in Virginia. He said you need to go with Tut Taylor Rankin. So I called WFP, Tut Taylor Rankin, a few other Coldwell bankers. And then I met with you and Michael. And again, I didn't know a single person within a 150-mile radius, not one person. I didn't have a real estate, sales background. And you guys gave me a shot. And, I'm very appreciative for, the loyalty you've shown me and, in turn.
Well, we got to compare our hometown someday.
Yeah.
And I was back in mine last summer, and God bless them, it hasn't changed in 50 years.
It doesn't change.
Okay, they're still at about 8,000. I think they've actually gone down in population a little bit.
Wait, Montpelier, Vermont?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, anyway,
but think of, I mean, like on a grand scheme of how everything's parlayed, I go back to, would we be in existence if you didn't have that in-chance meeting with Wallace at a for sale by owner, like how all that transpired. I mean, we all be under, Pardue real estate or Del Den or whatnot. It's crazy. How
it's like Back to the Future, Bizarro world, right?
Right.
Yeah. So no, one thing that I think about when I was reading the Malcolm Gladwell book Outliers a few years ago, and in there he talks about Bill Gates and other very well-known, famous and successful people in their respective lines of work, and it had to do with timing and some chance encounters and being in the right place at the right time in a certain era. And I think you're one of those people. Like you are one of these outliers in that sphere of people because of the era. The real estate market then wasn't, I mean, the market now, you have to admit, is extremely competitive. It's very saturated. There's thousands and thousands of agents everywhere you turn. Mm-hmm. There's heavy duty private equity brokerages, IPOs, technology.
There's a lot more money in it.
Zillow, Redfin. Yeah. It's just crazy. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity for the smaller broker to rise up to this kind of level. So, I mean, to be on that path, there's only one way to have been there. It's like you had to have been there, and it's at the origination point. So,
and for myself, my timing worked out for me.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was, I will tell you, one of the biggest shifts in my personal career was meeting Max's parents. When they were looking to downsize from Chevy Chase, the kids are getting ready to go, and they're up on Ingomar Street in a house that just resold again.
Yes.
And we were showing them a house on Hillier Place, probably a tenth of a mile from here.
Yeah.
And
how did that work? I'm just like, was that a cold call, or you met it? How did you meet Max's parents?
I honestly can't remember.
Did they come to an open house? I don't know.
I think so. I think I was holding something open on Hillier, and then like I did in that day, so we sent out, knew what they wanted, and we sent out letters, and we got I got a response from someone on the 2000 block of O Street.
Yep.
Right next to H.H. Leonard's place. So they put a contract in on it, and H. Leonard heard about it because it was a very quiet listing. I remember that was Peter Thompson, another Peter Thompson who owned that.
Oh, another Peter Thompson.
And H. Leonard bought their contract, and so they were back to square one, but with a little more money in their pocket. And Max was around. Were you out of Berkeley at that time?
No, I think I was honestly still in high school. I think it was at the end of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, this got along with this kid, and he had, ambition and was fun. And so started, I guess, kind of on an internship type.
Yeah. When I got out of college, I was at music school. I got out of college and I realized I had a couple paths. If I didn't know anything about audio engineering. I didn't do technology in college, so that was dumb. So I just wanted to play guitar and be a great guitarist. But when I got out of school, my attitude was like, I need to get a job where I can make some money. And Jonathan told me, he said, well, get your real estate license and we'll make money, And I went out with him a couple of times, like on some appointments. We went to contract presentation and a closing, like just a couple random things at a broker's open house, just like driving around. And I was like, okay, this is cool. You know, it was like a rainy day. And yeah, basically starting on just like an hourly sort of basic wage as an intern. And then, yeah, we just been working together ever since.
Ever since.
Literally.
And, you know, again, as getting back to my time when I started, it was a different way or different skill set that you needed to do the business. And, you know, if I didn't have you and then our backup with, you know, Claire, Lindsay, and Hunter, you know, the different technological skills.
There's a different level of support you need to get things done now.
Yeah.
It's amazing your ability to maximize on the opportunities, right? Even going back, I keep going back to like meeting Wallace at a for sale by owner open house, to like taking the whatever, the train or the plane, the three of you guys dressed up in a suit, meeting in front of Sotheby's corporate, to another open house, bringing on this young fellow over here, Max. I mean, like totally, you know, maximizing every opportunity. So anybody listening, I would say, whether it's floor duty or open houses, like put yourself in the opportunity, and then when the opportunity presents itself, seize upon it.
Yeah. Well, just to Wallace, to clarify what I was doing there, that was the DuPont West neighborhood where, as I guess a 24-year-old, I was decided, okay, I'm going to go to that neighborhood. And literally knocking on doors, asking people if they had something that they wanted other people to know about.
Sure. Yep.
And I would create a calendar and then hand deliver that every month. And
yeah, that's an important thing to note about the way you've done your business, and still to a degree, obviously using technology. You farmed locations specifically that you were familiar with, and you did it a lot by hand. You said at first. You would literally go street by street and write down the addresses, and so you knew the actual houses. You're not just pulling data from, you know, like the tax records. You would.
Well, then that which wasn't as easy.
Obviously, yes. You couldn't just go on MLS and pull tax records.
Pull it from the fax machine.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. Yeah, it was very by hand. We still use some of those same farms today on our mailing list. I mean, it's the same farms that you created.
The other thing people listening should hone in on is like your drive and determination, right? Like door knocking, going out there, cold calling people. I mean, that's one thing you can't teach in this industry, is someone's drive and determination to get out there and just make it happen.
Yeah, I didn't say I ever liked it, but
but you did it.
Did it. And you know what? And you'd go up and you'd have the anticipation, much, or you know, anxiety, much like coming here today.
What's worse?
Yeah, but you know, the door opens and someone, you know, a human with a smile is there, and you chat and life changes. And
What's been the most rewarding part of your business?
You know, it's interesting. It's like just yesterday, you know, we ratified a contract for a woman who had lost her husband a couple of years ago. She'd been married for 40 years, and she's been in a townhouse in Northwest DC, and she a 4-level townhouse, and she wanted a, you know, 1-level condo. Here's the boxes you need to check, and we found it, and we found it up on at 4301 Military, and just crazy. She walked in and it was like perfect. The smile on her face was incredible. She was excited about it. And lo and behold, a college roommate of hers lives in the same tier, 2 floors below on the terrace level. You literally can look out and see. And we had to compete with 2 other offers. And she listened to me. She was referred by someone I did business with 10 years ago, who's always been, you know, very nice, and we've kept in touch. And so she trusted me and did what almost sounded outrageous, you know, in this market to get the contract. And she didn't have to go to what she was willing to do. She's just so excited and thrilled. And that's the best part of this business.
Yeah.
And just, you know, when people respect what you're doing rather than fighting you, that's a problem these days, is everyone has information, and, you know, they see one thing and they want to cling to that piece of information rather than looking, you know, in total, or knowing the market for years and years and how things work.
Yeah.
You know, it's just they watched a YouTube video of, what your agent doesn't know, and, you should
Right.
tell them this.
Yeah.
So that
Well, yeah, we deal with that.
It's nice when people really appreciate what you know and how you work with them, and when you make them happy.
But that's another incredible thing also, that you've grown this business as a business owner, broker, managing partner, but you're still out here selling real estate. And I think I remember you told me not anytime recently, but you're still out here selling real estate. A while ago, you were just like, it's the art of the deal. It's like the thrill of the sale. And I experienced the same thing. You complete a sale or a transaction. It could be a really great one, or you could get a contract, you could be competing, or it could be a large listing that you finally got under contract. But there's always the next thing, and it keeps pulling at you.
Yeah.
You really have that. It doesn't seem to go away.
No, and as we said a long time ago, and I'm not good at sitting behind a desk. I do like to work through statistics and, be comfortable with what I'm telling someone.
Yeah.
But, thank God for you and the team.
Well, we obviously appreciate you as well, but I mean, we work all here together. It's like a really important thing.
But it's the day is involved with, these clients, the buyers, the sellers, with the team, with the company, with other agents, with I'm the broker, so Mr. Taylor, I'm going to be suing you. Great, thank you.
What did Brent and Rob do today?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like, we didn't do anything.
It wasn't
it's
me.
Like, just call Jonathan. Call Jonathan.
Yeah. It's so it's funny. Lots of hats I figuratively wear, and I don't wear any.
Fair enough. Well, let me see here. Okay, one question we ask our guests is, I think you've generally answered it all through everything you've said, and you deal with a lot of young agents too. So we have a young agent who wants to get into the business, wants to grow up to be the next Jonathan Taylor sooner rather than later, right? What is the best advice you think you can give to someone who's just starting off in this business?
It's funny. I was like 2 days ago coming back from an appointment in McLean. It is what it is. I was top down in the Ferrari. Okay. And this random person, pulls up next to me, energetic. Hey, sir, what can you advise me, and what should I do if I want to be like you?
Sounds like a TikTok or something.
Was it a Daniel Mack TikTok?
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I just, I didn't have a lot of time to chat. I just said, you know what? Be honest and work hard. And it really rings true in this business too. Create your reputation, and maintain your reputation, because particularly in the market that we deal with, in these multiple offer situations where, all things being equal, who does this other agent like?
Yeah.
Trust?
Who are you working with?
And, how should they advise their client as to who they should work with? And it's one of the few things that's within your control. And the concept that no deal is ever more important than your career. So just.
All right. One last one. These are usually ones that we don't usually get to, but this is an interesting one that really more just for you is, how do you want to be remembered in this industry?
I guess kind of what I just said.
Yeah.
Being a nice person.
Working hard,
being helpful to other agents and people, and, just honest throughout the community. And also, haven't mentioned this, but we at, TTR take great pride in giving back to the community.
For sure.
And, we're going to get back to those days, but, we used to be, at like 120, charity events a year.
Yep.
And that's a big part of who we are, and how we feel we're, integrated into our community and helpful. And so that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. We know it's not your favorite thing to do these kinds of things. So it means even more to us because of that. And we know you're one of the busiest humans in the city here. And the fact that you would take an hour to come spend with us means a lot to us. So we really thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for getting me to do this. I appreciate it.
Well, we just don't answer your text where you're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So we don't answer your text. And he has to show up.
What do you mean? Like not right now, tomorrow?
Like another appointment? Not this one.
Yeah.
So here's a part of our show where Brent's going to ask you a few quick questions. We call them the rapid fire, and just answer however you want.
Okay.
What is your guilty pleasure? Number one.
Dear.
I can't. Yeah, like don't look at me, man. Like,
Jace, hanging out in my pool with a martini.
Martini and pool time.
I would say I've seen that happen many times. So that's probably it. That's got to be it.
That's a good one. Favorite hobby?
Hobby, I would say just a variety of sports.
Variety of sports.
Just
Playing sports.
still playing, pitching in baseball teams and playing tennis and whatever comes along. That was, I suppose, one of my gifts, being relatively athletic.
It's kind of ridiculous, actually. Like he's
the competitive drive,
but it's just, but it also
world.
Just I don't. His ability to recuperate is beyond most guys. Like 20 years his junior. It's crazy. He's pretty talented. Anyway, sorry.
Your biggest sell and smallest sell.
Biggest sale was the Patterson Mansion, 15 DuPont Circle.
Mm-hmm.
After the last minute closing table renegotiations, I think it still sold for $20 million.
Wow.
That was back in 2013.
That's a big number.
It was interesting. That was the type of house that, in COVID, we're watching these, series now, things like, Gilded Age. That was right in the Gilded Age. The up and coming family, their house was built by Stanford White, who built that house.
Same architect, right?
So that was kind of interesting, and the way that they use, actual historical people in that show, I found interesting.
That's interesting.
Smallest one was probably a $50,000 condo at the Webster House.
Yeah.
1718 P Street.
There you go.
Yeah.
One of your favorites.
One of my favorites.
I actually lived there.
You lived there?
I think for 6 months.
Was that the $50,000 unit that you sold?
No, I couldn't afford that.
You got to blow up air mattress from the street, from the store down the street.
Well, I had bedding. I just didn't.
Right. What's your greatest strength?
I think just getting along.
Getting along with people.
Yeah. And realizing when I don't know something and finding someone who knows the answer that I need at the time, and being able to get people to give me the answers that I'm looking for. And,
resourceful.
Yeah.
Last question. We're asking everybody this. We're going to have a game at the end of the calendar year. Any predictions? The market's insane right now. Any predictions for the rest of 2022?
No, I think it's going to be strong. I mean, I can't imagine otherwise. There is so much pent-up demand, so much unrealized changes for people, or so many unrealized changes, and I think we're just going to keep running. So,
well, once again, we really appreciate you coming out. Now, we always like to make a donation in honor of our guests to any charity of your choice. I know, obviously, TTR has lots of charitable organizations that you guys give to, but is there any specific one you'd like to mention on today's show?
I'd say our long-running one for me has been the Humane Rescue Alliance.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
And with my new puppy, Fenway.
He'll beat the bark ball.
Yeah. Love those animals.
So, and we'll be doing some, with Max's help, Instagrams of Fenway Lives DC.
Yes.
Fenway's going to walk a $20 million house very soon.
We got to make this dog and this house go viral somehow. So we're figuring things out here.
Yeah.
He's got to be on TikTok.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Fenway is a mini Bernie Doodle. He's just the cutest thing on the planet.
He is.
You can see it on the JT group Instagram, and just
It's a very cute dog.
come find that dog.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks
Okay.
for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at KeyedInPodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Rabin Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRabin_properties.